Welcome to PM Express Business Edition. Come January 7th, the President-elect John Mahama will assume office as the new president of this country. But what do businesses want? What are the expectations coming from the private sector in terms of what they want? If you go through their manifesto, we've seen a lot of things that have been outlined. Is that okay to meet the private sector? On PM Express Business Edition, it's about expectations and creating the right environment for private sector to actually grow and expand. Well, I'll be engaging the Chief Executive of the Chamber of Bulk Distributor, Dr. Kweku Ofori, who join me in studio here, and also be engaging Dr. Mark Beduabuaji. He is the Chief Executive of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Online on Zoom will be the Chief Executive of the Ghana Association of Banks, and also bring in the perspective from a consultant, a business strategist, somebody who's been in and out in terms of working in the public sector and the private sector, and also across transitions, Dr. Daniel Sedo. All these issues wrapped up on PM Express Business Edition. We'll be right back after this break. Welcome back to PM Express Business Edition. And from January 7, we will have a new president. That is President-elect John Mahama taking over as the president of this country. But one critical sector that we often forget in the midst of all this political argument is the private sector, it's private businesses. It is said that government cannot employ the large number of graduates out there. It's the private sector that are going to employ them. So are we creating the right environment for the private firms out there to expand and grow and employ those budding graduates out there? What do they want? That's the big question that we are trying to get some answers on PM Express Business Edition when the president takes over. When you go through their manifesto, a lot of taxes are being reviewed and reviewing the agri sector and all the rest. So today, we're talking about the private sector and what they want from the incoming administration in terms of creating the right environment for them to grow. In studio with me, I have the Chief Executive of the Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributor, Dr. Kweku Ofori is here with the studio. And also, I have with me the Chief Executive of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mark Beduabuaji. On Zoom will be the Chief Executive of the Ghana Association of Banks, John Ewa, and also a strategist in the banking, more of a financial consultant, Dr. Daniel. So these are my guests on PM Express Business Edition as we talk about private sector and governance as well. And distinguished gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. And I do appreciate so much in pulling you guys to the studio. But before even we get to the nitty-gritty about expectations and all the rest, let me first look at how the sector is currently doing as we try and close the year. Let me start first with you. That is Dr. Kweku Ofori, Chief Executive of the Ghana, that is the Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors. You guys make sure that when I drive to the service station, I can still fill my tank. How is the sector doing as we close the year, the current state of the sector?
If you check the performance of the sector, it's been a bit challenging, but you check in terms of consumption or the demand for product, you compare the first 3 quarters of this year with that of the previous year, then you could clearly see that demand for petroleum products has gone up by 30%, despite the challenges that we face with forest availability to procure products. In addition to that, the last quarter, we also saw the intervention from Bank of Ghana when they step in addition to the normal BDC auction that they do by providing additional forest through our commercial banks for the sector. I think that also helped a lot to stabilize the currency. And in addition, it also gives some confidence to the international oil traders who continue to provide petroleum products to the sector. And that, to me, really made a significant improvement, especially in the last quarter, October. And I think credit to the governor and his team for really stepping in to do that, because that really kept nation afloat. Because when there is that struggle for dollars and they are not certain whether the banks and their partners will be able to provide the required forest that they will take. They know the city definitely, you buy, will get a city. But do we have enough forest to pay them? Because they are interested in the USD in order to also offset that. But when Bank of Ghana stepped in, it gave everybody within the supply chain that confidence that Ghana is a safer destination to send your product, and that ensure that there wasn't any form of shortage and other. But although we realize that there have been a bit of policy inconsistency and issues that maybe later on we're going to discuss into detail. But overall...
But you think that the Bank of Ghana support has quite been grateful
it's been great
in helping the supply of product?
It's been great, and then also it's also a feather in the cap of the Ghanaian entrepreneurs, especially the BDCs who step in through thick and thin to ensure that the tail end when they were the one who actually carried the country through that. And it's not something that they've not done before, but they show that indeed they've got a capacity to protect the space irrespective of any government intervention. And if government is to intervene, that should be creating the enabling environment that will drive business, that will also allow for free flow of product without any state entity eroding the gains that more or less they've been able to do for the time being.
Do we have enough products as we speak right now on the market? Because, sorry, I'm bringing back this question again, because there have been some concerns from some oil marketing companies about some supply challenges and all that. As we speak right now, do we have products across all board of area as we speak right now?
There is enough, more than enough products in country. Because in addition to, I think it's only PMS that we have about 2 to 3 weeks.
But is PMS being the...
But there are about 2...
Petrol, oh, that's petrol.
Petrol, yeah, but there are about 2 vessels waiting to berth. So I don't think there is any issue. Yes, we admit that there was a bit of issue with the bus terminal in Kumasi. That made the regulator directed that the BRVs, the tanker drivers, should move to Tema to pick products from Tema to supply the Kumasi and the northern sector, the middle belt, to be precise. But overall, well, I don't think there is any cause for alarm. And then if you check the vessels lineup, everybody is set to perform, and I don't think there is any cause for alarm.
Let me bring in Magbedu Abaji, Chief Executive of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry. How's the sector doing? I mean, it's quite been a rough year, but ending for you, how would you describe the current state of businesses and especially your members? I know you're putting together your end-of-year notes and all the rest. What have you picked up from your members as we've been able even to transcend these elections and ending the year, the current state of private sector and members of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry?
Yeah, George, largely nothing has really changed in terms of the business environment. The performance of the businesses depends on how this environment and the key indicators affect the activities of businesses. I must say that there have been a bit of recovery from some of the sectors, albeit very slow. Some are still struggling because all the issues that we've been talking about are still there. So the numbers for the second quarter, the third quarter that we have seen, is not something that we should be extremely excited about. We think that there is an opportunity for businesses to improve. So we are waiting for the end of year to see what will happen, but I don't see any significant change in terms of profitability, in terms of business expansion. I don't think we're going to see that change. But if you look at the GDP numbers, you see the other sectors are picking up. Some largely not because of high productivity, but because of changes in the prices of international prices. If you look at the gold and the construction sector for the last quarter really picked up because, you know, as a result of the election, there was a need to complete some of these projects. So the construction sector also picked up significantly and is also doing well. But generally, the manufacturing sector are all still struggling because of the numerous challenges that they are facing.
And can we say that the stability that we are seeing at the macro level is impacting on your operations?
That stability, for instance, came in quite late. If you look at the exchange rate issue, it's just about 2 weeks or so that we saw a significant improvement in the exchange rate. So that numbers really, if you want to see, it will take some time to look at its effect. We've seen inflation also coming down, which of course may have some effect. The policy rate, I mean, a policy rate of still 28% is very high. And you know there's a lag. I mean, it takes 2, 3, 4 months before a reduction in policy rate will translate into a reduction in lending rate. So the monies that they borrowed at 35 are still what they are using. So it's these ones that they are probably opportunity comes for them to borrow. That is when you're going to see these changes. But I mean, I think the future is very bright. We have started well. And I think that if you're able to sustain the gains that you've made in terms of the macroeconomic stuff, the indicators that are trending for me in the right direction, you're able to sustain them, then obviously next year will be a good year for businesses.
Let me go to Zoom and engage the Chief Executive of the Ghana Association of Banks, Mr. John Ewa. And let's get the perspective from the banking sector as we look at, again, the business expectations of the incoming administration. Mr. Well, thank you so much for your time. I know you've locked up in a lot of meetings and doing a lot of things in town, but I appreciate your time so much for getting time to join us on PM Express Business Edition. For you, for the banking sector, how would you describe 2024 and even the current state of the sector? If you look at your Q3 numbers, well, some of us will say that, well, it means that things are quite good for you, right?
George, thank you very much. Thanks to my friends in the studio and those online as well. You agree with me that most of 2024 has been consumed by our elections. So as banks, what we have done is to ensure that we continue to anchor the economic recovery that we've started witnessing or seeing. So it hasn't been more or less like a rosy ride in 2024, because elections has its own uncertainties, and in certain times, of course, at the bank, as a banking sector, we are also we watch all the variables, and we are very careful to ensure that we do not create a situation where, as banks, we will indulge in a certain activity that potentially can lead to systemic problems in the environment. Fortunately for us, we've gone through the elections very safely, and we are happy that where we are as a country, as an industry, as we move forward, we'll begin to chart a path that works for all of us. As a country in 2024, we all know that we've been able to stay on course on the IMF program, which as banks was very important for us. The program continues to have significant, restrictions on the kind of things that as a country we can and cannot do. Election years are always years that we get fiscal slippages. For some good reasons, this year we have been able to stay on track, which is very positive for the image of the country, and for the fact that we're able to stay the course and improve our capacity to make good our commitments under the IMF program. Again, as banks, we continue to embark on sustainable banking practices and the area of ESG, environmental, social, and governance practices. So in 2024, a lot of the programs that we as an association embarked on, we're focused on ESG and how we can help the business community to take advantage of the green finance opportunities that we have in the environment. So overall, I would say a greater portion of 2024 was consumed by elections, but God being good, and thanks to all Ghanaians, we are where we are. We are one country in one piece, which we all appreciate very much.
So, well, you've spoken about the elections and how smooth it has been, and just quickly rope it in about January 7th, we will have a new government taking over. For the banking sector, I mean, what are your expectations? I know that one tax that has been promised by this incoming administration is about the e-levy, which has some implications on financial transactions as well. But for you, let me first start with you. For you, the banking sector, your members and all the rest, what is the proposal from your sector to this government as in what do you want?
Obviously, certainty is critical for every business. So fiscal discipline is going to be one key component of the next government activities that, as community of banks, we will be monitoring and will be critically reviewing. You need to stay the course. Of course, there are things that the new incoming government has promised, and as a government, they have to make good the promises that they have made, which means that we need to look at other areas where we can save, areas where there are leakages, supposed leakages that can be blocked. We know that there are a lot of blockades in terms of the financial architecture, which we have to.
And sorry, we're having a challenge, but it's good to quickly come to you as well. But Doc, for you in the bulk and transportation sector and all the rest, I mean, what is your biggest top of the line proposal for this incoming administration?
I think once the president-elect when they assume office, once they start making the appointment, the caliber of personnel or the human resources that is assembled to man the various institutions, key among them is the regulatory institutions.
Like the National Petroleum Authority?
Yeah, the board, the CEO there, and then also maybe the board of Bank of Ghana, and then other state entities, the Cocoa Board, and how the vision that transfer, because you can't take every decisions based on political interest and personal interest, and definitely it will come back to bite you. And then also key people who are experienced to lead that, and the track record is there. And I think it's one thing that I think the media has also not done extremely well. You could have picked certain personalities that have manned some of these institutions, profile the performance based on either SIGA reports or the company's annual financial statements to really analyze and see. You will clearly see that those who are experienced and came from a certain background, the performance of those institutions will stand out. So that we don't allow people, because yes, they are political entity, they are political figures, and that they are good communicators, and they were on radio defending their political agenda, and because of that, you put them into a certain strategic national institutions, and before you realize, the fundamentals will be weakened, because one, they don't have the necessary network within the industry or the other aspects to be able to even pick up a phone call and then get things fixed. And in addition to that, they also may not appreciate a certain basic corporate governance and compliance issues that requires or that create the enabling environment for businesses to thrive. These are key indicators that we'll be looking to ensure that indeed, is it going to be the same old story, or as a country we are moving towards a certain direction? Manifesto-wise, I listened to the Deputy NDC National Secretary Dr. Peter Otukono on some of the agric initiatives that they were going to take. If they are going to roll out such programs, the key thing is, are they going to give those positions at the district level whereby the agricultural incentives and then the agricultural extension officers to those who are going to operationalize that laudable initiative within the agri sector, are they going to be anchored by political actors who are going to satisfy political interests at the expense of productivity or efficiency.
So you want the right people in the right positions.
Of course, and you definitely get that. And it's not that.
I'll come back to you on the policy issues for your particular sector as well.
It's not that the incoming administration is not blessed with that. But we should really distinguish between rewarding talkers and those who have got the track record to execute some of these ideas.
Running a political system of governance, or they'll say politics is a political economy. Some will say that might be quite difficult, but I'll come back to you on that one. Mark, I mean, for you, the income administration has promised to review some taxes.
Yes.
Does it bring some excitement to you?
Of course.
Or the clear thing is that, what do you want? The Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, what have you been whispering your friends or colleagues in that area that makes sure you don't lose the focus when it comes to this for the private sector?
Yeah, George, I think if you look at the manifesto of the key political parties, it clearly reflects the concerns that we have raised over the years, for the past 2-3 years. So before preparing the manifesto, we met them and we clearly told them the impact of some of these things on businesses. So if they clearly says that they are going to review taxes, for us it's very exciting. But there's one thing saying it and the other thing doing it. We were here in 2016, 2017 when the MPP said that they were going to remove nuisance taxes. And obviously they were able to scrap about 15 taxes. But the taxes came in another form, in a more harsher form in terms of the rate, in terms of how it was impacting in businesses. So for us, tax issues are very, very key. For the past month, we've been meeting our members just to engage how they are doing and how the question you are asking, how they expect the incoming government to also operate to help businesses. George, at the moment, the business environment is still very harsh, extremely harsh. Yesterday, we met one of our members and he was complaining about taxes. If you take the VAT, for instance, the standard VAT is 15%. The levies is close to about 6%. And those ones, they translate directly into cost of production. And look at the cascading effect, even on prices and also on consumers. So for me, one of the things they have to look at is this VAT. They need to review it. Because these levies, we've been promised, for instance, the COVID-19, the first thing that I would want to see, because we have said it at the Chamber of Commerce over and over again, that there is no need for this COVID-19. So the first tax I expect His Excellency John Mahama to take out is the COVID-19 first. And then the e-levy, brilliant idea, but I think the implementation was also very poor. Probably they also had to take it out because it's been promised. I mean, now I think we are going to hold them accountable to the promises that they have made to the business community, because the taxes themselves are killing business.
Mark, in a minute, for you, do you also care about the implications of scrapping these taxes?
Yes.
And the other argument being made about the hole in the revenue basket, because that money is needed to create that right environment for your firms and your members.
In fact, that is one of my major concerns, because in giving out all these promises of scrapping these taxes, I haven't heard of clear policy direction on how they are going to generate revenue. So that's what happened. They scrapped them and now they don't have the revenue. So they are looking for other options of getting revenue. So either they are borrowing that will not have the money to pay, and then we find ourselves in this high debt to GDP ratio that we are having. So I would also want, beyond that, a clear policy direction on how they are going to generate revenue. Taxes are all good. For instance, some of the exemptions for me may not be necessary at this time. And we are spending a lot of money. We are giving people exemption that can also generate revenue just to cover up for these holes that the scrapping of these taxes may create. So in reducing the taxes, the other challenge is also the revenue. They should tell us how they are going to do that. They don't necessarily have to bring in new taxes. For me, the taxes that are already there, if they are implementing it well, and also supporting businesses to grow and also increase compliance, we'll be able to generate a lot of revenue to support the loss that will come from the scrapping of some of these taxes. For me, it's a brilliant idea that we would want to see the president bring on board as soon as possible, because I mean, another example, one of our members was producing the product, I don't want to mention a name, a month producing 27,000 tons of that product. Yesterday we met him, he's now producing 300 tons of that product. GRE went there and they were asking them, why is it that their tax revenue had gone down? They said, this is what you have done to us. Now we are not producing as much as, because the import duties are very high. There are several other taxes that are eating into us. Now we don't even have to, the people, we have laid them off. The revenue that you would have expected at the 27,000 tons that they were producing will come. That revenue won't come. So no government will survive without supporting the private sector. If you need the money, support the private sector. They will expand, and the taxes will come. The revenues will come. It's not about the rate. It's not about how many taxes you have, but the compliance and how effective these taxes will be.
Let me bring in Dr. Daniel Sedo, a strategist, a financial consultant, somebody who's worked both in the public sector, the private sector, and even moved across when it comes to these transition periods and all the rest. Doc, thank you so much for your time. And for you, in these times, is it about managing expectations, or some would say that, I met one business person who said that, George, anytime I don't invite a minister to my program, it is very smooth. I run everything is done. When I invite a minister to the program drags and all those things. Can these private firms move without forgetting about the external environment and whatever this new administration has promised or not, and still survive in this environment, Doc?
Colleagues on the show. What we need is a balance between everything that we do. The businesses are not in isolation. The businesses need the government needs the businesses. And it will be good if everybody sit at a round table to have a conversation, to rethink the processes. Reset has become a political word, but we need to rethink before we do the resetting. We need the businesses to be profitable, to be able to pay taxes. We shouldn't use tax to kill the businesses and get people out of job. So I think that if we are able to meet and have a meaningful conversation, the agenda should be, how do we enable businesses to employ a lot more people? So can we select businesses that have growth potential, support them? I'll tell you one of the things that probably they should be thinking of. You have a tax system which says on every quarter or quarterly basis, you must make payment. You've not finished your year, but they said you must make payment. But if we select some very good businesses, productive businesses, that can employ a lot more people, can we have the conversation that says, don't be in a hurry to pay your quarterly tax. We want you to retain that money to grow and employ a lot more people. So at the end of the year, you can make your payment. You see, this line of thinking will enable the companies retain cash, because taxation is cash flow. Yeah. If the tax man comes, your cash will move out. So if you can retain money in the business, it means your cost of financing will also drop. Your potential to grow will be there. And as we employ people, what we have done is to empower people to consume. And as they consume, the consumption tax will kick in. So the balance that we need through the processes is what is missing. Then also, I think the politicians should show the commitment that they'll be prudent in using resources. The taxes we pay, to what use are these taxes put to? Now, if we try to be efficient, you will see that the little tax we pay is sufficient enough to do many things for us. Now, if you pick, let's say, some of the big projects politicians will talk about, the interchange. I heard on your morning show today that the Palace interchange already is choked, is jammed, it's not serving its purpose. But I do not believe that what we needed is an interchange. That we need to start rethinking the way we do things and introduce efficiency, introduce the discipline that we need in all that we do, and then try to understand that we need human beings to survive first before we can rule over them. So the businesses have a major challenge. The difficulties will not go away overnight, But what I would expect is that the politicians should be sitting with the businesses and have a frank conversation. And I think the politicians should first give, that is, allow the businesses to operate before they come back for the taxes.
Doc,
that will be my comment.
Doc, I also want to get back to you on this whole argument about sit and let's talk. In the manifesto, and last when we engaged the former Minister of Finance, Tekpa, he spoke about a national forum to discuss the economy. I mean, already some will say that doesn't the income administration really know what Doc Kwekwo knows and then what they are asking for in the Magbedu budget? Do we need a national forum again to get their concerns and move on them? Because they know what these businesses want.
I do not think that even the politicians themselves understand the difficulty we have fully. I do not think so. They will walk in and realize that, it's a lot more difficult than what they thought. And it is because of that that you need the businesses to sit with it. And I do not think that the businesses, when they sit far and they talk, they are being listened to. We've reached a point that we all need to be realistic. If the politicians can see the businesses as their customer and will be worried about the way they will behave, and for that matter, will listen to the businesses, my sincere belief is they will get a better result. If you don't even want to have a national dialogue, pick the businesses that can scale up. Pick the businesses that can give you quick results. Purpose to support them. Be deliberate about it. Give something. That's what I'm saying. Don't push the tax agenda first. Give something. Encourage them to work hard. Encourage them to be efficient. And if it's possible, second the tax people to these businesses to help them do things in a better way. Then they can come back for their tax revenue. So the conversation must happen, even if it's not on a national scale, or you can do it in various groupings. Yes, listen to them, understand what their real issues are, and make commitment to help them. Because without the businesses, we're all going nowhere.
Doc, in a minute, I want you to put on your consultancy cap and talking to Doc here and then Mark as well, and then the Chief Executive Organization of Banks. What should be their posturing and posture in engaging a government that has come in, that is asking for a grace period, that is asking that I still need to understand the situation on the ground even before I press ahead with the VAT reforms and all the rest? What should be their posturing? I mean, you want to look at businesses in a different sector compared to public sector workers. How should they approach the government that has come in, that they also want things to be done quickly? Because time no day, if I can use that expression.
No, there's no time for anybody because we are in negative position. And like I said earlier, the businesses need government, government needs the businesses. I think that it should be one of those early things that we should be doing. The businesses should come showing commitment that, look, it's not like we are avoiding tax. But what we are asking for is give us room to operate. Support us. If it's industry, what do they need? Financing. And like I said earlier, even if you don't give them the physical cash, but you can slow down the rate of collecting the taxes. That is a breather. That is space enough for them. The little things they need done. Sometimes it's about the raw materials that comes, that you slap tax on them, or you delay the processes so they can have them and work quickly to generate the revenue they are looking for. If we can waive those things and go into the businesses to say, what are the bottlenecks? Let's clear them for you to produce. And if the businesses would also make it a commitment that government, we're here. We also want to make profit. Support us. If we make profit, we make money, you make your tax. If we can have that understanding, that should be the best posturing that we should have. I do not think that anybody sets out business to make losses. No. Everybody wants to run a business and be profitable. The tax should not be what we should use to kill businesses, but rather we should know that if we support the businesses and they do well, we'll get our tax revenue. So the two entities must work together. There is no other way than everybody sitting at that table and having an open conversation, an honest conversation. And like I said earlier, Look, if we cut down on our expenses, we will do very well as a people. There's too much wastage, sincerely, too much wastage.
I'll come to Doc quickly in the studio, but I want to bring in Johnny Well, who we lost him because of some internet challenge. But John, if you can hear me, for the banks, is the fiscal consolidation levy and the other taxes also still a major concern for you? What is your topmost issue when it comes to the banking sector that you want this incoming administration to really pay a critical attention when they take over?
Yeah, George, thank you very much. And I believe the point has been made about making the tax system more efficient in a way that it does not become more like a punitive engine to punish the business community. As banks, we have gone through years and years of taxes that were supposed to be temporary taxes, the fiscal stabilization levy, the national reconstruction levy. These were all tax handles that were supposed to be for 3 years. Some have been in there for almost a decade and more. You need certainty if you are running a business, if you are running an industry. And you don't want a situation where the government comes and tells you this is what we are going to do, is going to be in there for 1 year, 2 years, and all of a sudden it has become one key tax handle for tax revenue mobilization. So in a nutshell, as has been said already, I don't want to repeat what has already been said. The tax engine must be made to be efficient. As it is now, and having listened to a lot of businesses, the work we do, we talk to businesses. The complaint has always been more or less like a group that is seeking to use the tax as a tool to more or less threaten businesses here and there. There are manufacturing companies that you go there and they'll tell you, the tax people, when they come here, it's like everything is frozen. Meanwhile, it's not like they don't want to comply. Let's make the compliance easier. Let's allow businesses to be able to accumulate capital, plow back, generate more revenue, scale their operations, and then once they create more wealth, they create more tax avenues. So we need to see, just like has been said, the business entity as a partner in tax mobilization. If we see that, you will find that the compliance level will go up, and once compliance goes up and a lot more people are within the basket, a lot more businesses are within the basket, we will get the tax revenues that we are looking for. But as banks, we are very much interested in staying the course on the fiscal side, on debt management, on macro stability, and all the things that will lead us to have some form of increasing our ability to plan forward, and also enhancing the environment in a manner that the default rate that banks are recording now, because businesses are going through some challenges, the default rate around 24% is not sustainable. If you look in the sub-region, Ghana is a complete outlier, and it should never be the case that for every 100 Ghana cedis that as banks we lend, we are likely going to lose 24 cedis. If you are a bank, when you are going to do the next lending, what will be going through your mind? We need to work on improving the credit culture, using the judiciary, enhancing the recovery process, and going through the Land Commission, Register of Companies. All these important state institutions must come to the table and help us to develop the credit environment such that we make it fluid and seamless, and businesses can approach banks for funds and for loans that are affordable. Otherwise, the situation we have, where banks in an attempt to recover some of the losses through impairment or non-performing loans, will layer the next lender a certain, a risk premium in order to cover the potential loss, which may not exist for that particular customer. But you cannot blame the bank for wanting to ensure that the depositor's money is not unduly put at risk. So we are, very hopeful going forward into 2025, and we would really, really work with the government on areas on debt management, fiscal stability, and particularly, you mentioned debt consolidation, making sure that we cut our coat according to the size of the cloth we have, not overexert ourselves. We know that promises have been made, but promises are not made to be realized in 50 days, 100 days, 200 days. Promises that have been made are to be realized over a 4-year period. We want the government to plan the execution of whatever electoral promises have been made in a manner that it does not unduly and in an unintended manner also hurt the economy. We know that there's a lot of goodwill, and we are hopeful for what lies ahead for the country.
Mr. Well, I know that you run into another meeting, which I have to let you go, but just quick 1 or 2 minutes as you wrap up and leave us to go into that meeting of yours. For you, what again that government or this new administration should not do, because you know the problems you've gone through, debt exchange and all the rest, currency issues and borrowings and all the rest. For you, as you wrap up and leave this for you, in 2 minutes, what should this new president or this new administration shouldn't do that comes with its own consequences for the banking sector?
The number one, which I believe perhaps is number 1, number 2, number 3, the appetite for another debt operations is zero. So we need, as a country, to know that the holders of government instruments would like government to perform. So any ideas around another debt operations is something that the global market is not looking up to, and the local market or domestic market is also not looking up to. As banks, we are also looking at how do we improve the credit culture and the environment so that NPLs, non-performing loans, can come down to a level where the interest rate and the lending rate in particular also will come down to make loans affordable, businesses to be able to have access to facilities at rates that they can accommodate within existing, even challenged cash flows. And the environment is everything. So as banks, we are pursuing sustainable banking principles, and we want the banking population to also help the government to pursue help us pursue the sustainable banking practices, which means all active players within the market must have in the back of their mind that we need to leave something for the future generation. So our environment is a top priority for us to, as a bank, as banks.
I appreciate your time. So in the middle of a meeting, I had to step out to join us, and wish you all the best and you run back in that meeting. Mr. Wa, as the chief executive.
I know you're wrapping up on me, George, but I forgot something. The cost, I know it's been touched on, but as banks, every time we're talking about inflation and cost of production, we forget that banks are also impacted. So yes, inflation has come down from 54 to somewhere around 23, but it's still at a level that does not help with sustained, manageable cost constraints. So as the new government should have a clear agenda on how it's going to work to also manage the inflationary pressures that we have in the economy. We had it coming down all the way to almost 20%, but over the last 3 months, we've seen some level of inflationary pressures pushing it back to around 23, and we call on the new government to put a very strong handle on that. Inflation is a cancer, and if we don't have a tap on it, everything that we do will just be eaten away by inflation. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Mr. Johnny. Well, Mr. Dr. Kwekos, I mean, let's look at your sector, and a lot of things are happening in that space. And again, for you, going forward, how do we deal with the challenges, or what should be the focus for the president-elect when it comes to petroleum, distribution, regulations, which we first spoke about, getting the right people in that space?
You need to appreciate what businessmen go through, like what Dr. Sadabun was saying. You need to appreciate that, and that you can only perform when you have nurtured yourself and developed yourself, invested in yourself to achieve a certain status and build the right capacity to be able to make the right kind of decisions. And not until you are able to appreciate what lies ahead. And then you are able to appreciate the concerns of the businessmen. Attitude is critical. The kind of posture that government appointees would want to engage business communities as if your servants are lording over you. It's something that we need to find a way of navigating. In addition to that, until we are able to also enhance our domestic production, which inadvertently would impact on your export process, which will ensure that what I'm interested in is FX availability to be able to import my product. In addition to a stable currency that does not necessarily erode the gains. So when you make key appointment or key personnel to manage strategic sectors that are going to bring you those foreign direct investment, you cannot just put anybody who goes out there and speak anyhow and who has not really built the required capacity to be able to make that laudable, innovative, creative mind that businesses are able to or will be willing to invest in. Because it's similar to, like Mr. Ewa and his team, when I go to assess a loan, they would first want to profile my management team and see what capacity.
You are a credit-worthy person, so you have...
It's not just me, but who and who...
A premium customer, of course.
Who and who are going to manage the resources or the loan that I'm going for. And then also, there are certain key strategic assets that, as a country, we need to revitalize. And this is where we throw the challenge to the incoming administration to really... TOR is critical on the agenda. And this is where we're throwing the challenge. And I've spoken to a couple of the BDCs and their partners who are willing to join forces with government, to have a stake in the thermal oil refinery, to revamp it and make the right kind of investment, and also have got the right partnership with either the BPs, the Vitors, and then the Trafigurers to bring the crude and then also to invest in the RFCC to bring it on stream, which will automatically help the production levels, the supply levels in country, and then also reduce the pressure on even the currency, because definitely about 40% of it will be in here. And then also exporting to the neighboring countries like Burkina, and then the other landlocked countries are also going to generate foreign direct forests into the economy. So that is one aspect. And then also the mooring facility that has been tied to, that is enjoying some level of monopoly. Once all these sectors are open up, and then the private sector is investing in, then the government is guaranteed that more jobs and more openings and more opportunities are going to opening up. In that case, the cost of the product, in terms of the demurrage charges, because we have a single mooring facility, which as even a national security concern is not advisable, because the thermal enclave that holds about 70 to 80% of your petroleum products can only get in through a single mooring facility. Obviously, we cannot allow that to go on when we really want to develop. And another aspect that we also talk about that sometimes is a bit pathetic is the policy inconsistency. You check the number of regulatory changes and then charges, levies that comes in within a space of 2 years. No proper businessman who is investing more than $50 million and cannot be guaranteed of the fiscal space and the kind of taxes that they will be exposed to would want to take a certain gamble. So these are some of the concerns that we want to be able to rely on. And
but Doc, just a quick one. I mean, you spoke about TOR being a very critical area for you. We understand Centure is down for almost 2 months now. Does it expose the deep inherent challenge when it comes to refining products locally? Because if they are down for 2 months, then after all, it shows that the problems of TOR was not just about it being a state institution.
No, the problems of TOR was also about it being that, and then the kind of personnel and then the kind of investment that have gone on. So I just don't want to give a certain example. Look at the list of exemptions that are being given. A component of that or percentage of that exemption can be used to revitalize TOR. Or you give TOR, and people forget that under the time that a certain bank in Ghana gave a facility to TOR, TOR was profitable. When one of those IOTCs partnered TOR, TOR became profitable. So it is not that it's an institution that is not profitable. The era that TOR was making losses was because TOR was never allowed to charge for its cost of production, because that was the era where the subsidy reigns. But currently, under the deregulation sector, and also if TOR is not going, TOR is going to lead just refine, and then the BDCs are going to pay or use the LCs to ensure that TOR can easily have access to their money. Unlike those days that you are dealing with, TOR was dealing with OMCs, that the credit department will always be chasing people all over the place that they cannot. Now you have a limited group of people who are posting LCs that you can really count on. That becomes an easy aspect. And then also, once the private sector is partnering any government and having a stake in and managing that, there are certain human errors or certain investment that TOR required that no government has been able to put that money up front in. Once they get those investments and the right kind of technology is also invested in to monitor the product supply and also the tanks and other things, clearly the efficiency and the productivity of TOR will become viable. And then we can all reduce the pressure. You will be getting LPG, you will be getting ATK and other products that we are all importing. And we just want people to appreciate the concern that none of us is happy that TOR is there. What a lot of people don't
really, BDs, they think that BDs are quite excited because it creates more room for your members to bring in products.
No, per the new act also, even if TOR is refining, they will be selling through the BDCs.
Okay.
And that gives us a certain level of control. That gives us a certain level of ability to participate in, because we are also throwing the challenge that open it up. We are more than willing to own a stake. Like the likes of ENI, BP and all those, they all somehow have a stake in some of the major refineries. So they use their know-how and their leverage and their balance sheet to bring in the crude to the refineries to be able to be efficient. So that is
so it's a major. Let me quickly bring in Dr. Magbedu. I get you that tax is a key concern for you from what you've said.
It's one of the key
Would you be
concerns.
pushing for a major overhaul or reforms of the Ghana Revenue Authority, whoever takes over as the finance minister in this administration?
Yeah, obviously, I think that we should, as has been said, we should look at people who can do the work very well, and also people who understand businesses. In fact, if I owe you, for instance, I haven't paid my tax for whatever reason, and you come and you lock out my shop or my factory or whatever, you're obviously not going to get the money. So they should understand that we are partners in development. We need the money to run this economy. Somebody will have to produce or expand to be able to generate the revenue for you. So at the point where that business is going through some challenges, struggling, you should understand. And obviously come out with certain level of support. That, as we said, we are giving you this opportunity for 3, 4, 5 months. So instead of going to the bank to borrow, use the money you have generated that probably have been used to pay tax to expand. At a point in time, they will also be ready to pay for their taxes. So that's why, for me, the dialogue is very important. We all know, I mean, on top of our head, we know what is going on in terms of all the issues. But when we sit down, all of us around the table, and we let them know exactly what the situation is, I think they will actually appreciate for all of us to come out with better solution. And after that, there will be a buy-in from both government side and also that of the private sector, that this is the way forward, this is what all of us want to do, and this is how we are going to move the economy from one point to another. One key thing for me is also the issue of interest rates. I think when Mr. Wua was talking, in fact, when interest rates are high, they sort of also get the profit that they are talking about. But it's also, when it's also high, it also affects them, because businesses will have to go and borrow, And it means that with a high interest, you have to also invest in a very risky venture, for which reason you're not able to pay your principal. So the non-performing loans are also going up. All these things are what we call probably derived indicators. When we begin to actually bring taxes down, we begin to bring interest rate down, then inflation will also follow suit because they feed into inflation. And one key thing that going forward we should look at is food inflation. This is one area that we have control over as a country. But because we've been able to pay particular attention to agricultural sector, we see inflation coming up, but food inflation is going up. In a typical home, we spend close to 50% of our revenue on food. So when food inflation is going up, it means that cost of living is going up. It means people are becoming poor, people are becoming hungry. Now people are voting based on their stomach. Vote is now on the economy. Whatever you have to do, you need to listen to people, listen to their stomach. We have said this over and over again. I don't want this incoming administration to get to that level. George, I know you don't have time. But
no, I do have the time, but I'm going to come back because we're going to do a quick commercial break as well. But I didn't get your thoughts on the reforming of GRA because from all that I'm getting from you people, it looks like it's a major concern for you. Doc, I'll also come back to you about the argument about we are not paying enough taxes, so why do you take off some taxes and the implications on the revenue line or revenue basket as well. This PM Express Business Edition to look at business expectation of the incoming administration. We'll take a short break and we'll be right back. Welcome back to PM Express Business Edition as we talk about the incoming administration and what do private sector want. Is it all about taxes or it's about creating the right environment for them to grow, expand and employ more people? I'm engaging the Chief Executive of the Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors, Dr. Magbijo Baje, as the Chief Executive of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and Dr. Kweku Ofori is the Chief Executive of the Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors, and Dr. Daniel Sedo is a consultant, a financial strategist, and let me get back to him on Zoom right now. Doc, the argument about taxes, but there's another school of thought that, listen, we are not raising the required revenue. What is the advice, again, to the incoming administration about how to deal with the tax issue? Whilst private sector is pushing for more reliefs, you also need to raise revenue for those social intervention programs and running the economy?
Okay, thank you very much. Unfortunately, I did not share the school of thought that says we are not raising enough revenue. For me, the issue really is to what use we put the revenue that we generate. We have assets. To what extent do we sweat these assets to make them efficient and be profitable and generate the revenue we all desire? If you pay critical attention to us as a country, you would see that taxation is supposed to be based on chargeable, what they call the chargeable income. So you must be profitable to generate taxable income for government. Now, if you pick the big institution that belongs to government, many of them are making losses. So you'll see that they can't generate the tax revenue we are looking for. And then the private sector that should also be efficient, government infuses it with high level of inefficiency. So they are not able to perform at optimum level. Then comes the exemptions we give to entities. Then you have a Greek sector that doesn't generate taxes. So it's a structure that we run. If we want to correct it, we should say these are our productive assets. Let's manage them efficiently. Let's manage them prudently. Let's allow them, let's sweat them well enough to generate revenue, make profit, then we tax. So if we don't go through that cycle, that reform cycle of realigning our productive assets, we would have the challenge. If we also do not put the little tax we generate, if you call it little, that we generate, to productive use, we would always come back for more. I think those who are collecting the taxes and those who are managing the taxes must know the value of money and put it to productive use. We do not exhibit knowing the value of the taxes we collect. Now, we need to change our mindset about taxation. One of my colleagues said earlier, it seemed as if we use tax as a punitive measure. That should not be the case. Tax people should be able to sit with business people to understand their businesses and first offer help. Once they offer help to businesses and businesses are doing well, the taxes will be paid. It's a fundamental principle we all need to appreciate, that if you want something from me, you must first throw something to me. And when I get that and I put it to productive use, I'll be okay to pay tax. And let's go back to our own traditional system about taxation. Now, the king will give you land to farm. When you farm and you produce, it's part of your produce you share with the king. That is the taxation. That is why I would always say government should first give to the businesses. Government should encourage the businesses. Government should make the initial sacrifices, and government should push the agenda of efficiency.
You have a challenge on there. Let me come in quickly into the studio here. One critical thing that this new incoming government is going to push is the 24-hour economy. Doc Ofori, how ready are BDCs for? Because there's some who argue that it should be a market-driven policy. If the economy itself is growing, is expanding, nobody will stop that watch woman at East Legon that sells 24 hours. Nobody will stop businesses like yours doing a 24-hour shift. So I'm saying that the market is not there for a 24-hour economy. How ready are your members to do a 24-hour schedule to accommodate more people?
Why we are ready, that is where government deliberate policy like such policy directive or major campaign promise brings in. So I will go back to the basis where so currently we have a mooring facility that by 11 p.m. or so is shut down. So if by government deliberate policy, the right kind of investment have been made there, they've been asked to run a certain number of shifts that at any point in time, vessels could be discharging. In the normal 72 hours of discharge, it means with a 24-hour economy, I'll be able to discharge within, let's say, 36 hours, which automatically reduces my cost demorages for other vessels that are berthing. In the same vein, if government is saying that because of the 24-hour economy, if I'm a terminal operator, like the depots where the petroleum products are loaded, currently as it stands now, when loading is happening over the weekend or beyond 5 p.m., it's the terminal owners that foot the bill by paying the GRA people. So with a policy like the 24-hour economy, my terminal operators will be happy that the government will now be running a tax system, or the custom officials is now automatic that they are going to run the 24-hour shift, three 8-hour shift. So that one, the terminal operator will not necessarily need to bear the cost. In addition to a responsibility that comes with the 24-hour economy, is the security and then the infrastructure, the lighting within the terminal enclave and the road there is also a
But it comes at a cost, an additional cost. And are you willing to employ more people? The cost that comes
is the government that is supposed to give the initiative for me to employ more. The government
incentivizing
is
more.
Yes, they need to give the incentives and set the initiatives for us to be able to follow. So if the government is the one who employs the custom officials. It's telling them that the custom officials are going to be at your disposal for 24 hours, that you, the terminal operator, henceforth, you are not the one going to foot for those extra hours that they will be there. That is something taken off me. If the government is also enhancing security operatives, the 24-hour patrol within the petroleum enclave, my staff will be moving irrespective of the time of the night, can also have access to do that. And in addition, as a business owner, if I decide to run 24-hour shift, my staff who under normal circumstances may be going to be taxed, let's say 24% or so, your taxes are going to be reduced. So if government solely want to do that and is prepared to bring some initiative, the private sector will buy in.
So you are ready for it as long as the incentives are there. Let me bring in Magbidobaji as well. Your members, I know it's something that you actually look at the two political party manifesto, and it's something that you have to prepare yourself for, because some will say that, governments move the economy. Are your members ready for this policy that government says they are going to champion? Because there are some who have argued that it should be a market-driven policy than a government pushing it when the market is just not there.
George, the market is there.
I see.
Yes. In fact, our population may be 32 million, but we are part of ECOWAS with over 300 million people. We are part of Africa with after 1.2 billion people. So the market is there. But in doing that, if you want to get a market, that means that our products should also be competitive. So the first point to create the market is to ensure that businesses are able to produce at a competitive price and not be able to compete within this ECOWAS and also within the African market. Even within, if we cut down the import of some of the products and we say the factories that we have should produce them, Ghana, even here, we have the market. Look at flour, for instance. We import 600 million worth of flour. We have 4 main manufacturing companies in Ghana here. I'll mention one. Ulam produces less than 40% of their capacity. Less than 40%, because we are importing a lot of flour. So their capacity will still have 60% there, untouched. If we are saying that 24-hour, me and you, we are demanding the local products, goods that are produced here, Olam will be able to produce to meet the $600 million worth of import of only flour. Means that 24 hours they will be producing. In doing that, they will pay more tax. In doing that, they will employ more people. On the same sheet, we have toilet roll and tissues. We imported toilet roll and tissues.
And that's the Ghana Circle Service trade.
Exactly. Of 100 million. Are we telling ourselves that we cannot produce toilet roll and tissues in Ghana here? We want to stabilize our currency by importing goods, about 13 billion worth of goods from outside. We cannot run our economy like that. All the things that are here, to a large extent, we can produce them. That is where the 24-hour economy becomes more relevant. If you are consuming all this, about 13 billion worth of import, we are producing them here. We will run 24-hour economy, and the economy will move. But it will not be automatic. We need to create the right environment for this production. In fact, energy, electricity is key. One thing that I want this government, of course, to take a critical look at is electricity, the cost and availability. So
but just hold on just a minute. I'm coming.
We will not tag Mahama again with doom so.
Just a minute. Let me go to Dr. Sedo, and in just 2 minutes, because our time is as you wrap up, your advice to the incoming government and even the private sector that are coming for them to wrap up. In 2 minutes, your final word for incoming government and also the private sector as well. In 2 minutes, Dr. Sedo.
Well, my advice would be let's all have hope and look very positively into the future and desire to work together and also desire to be honest with ourselves and eliminate greed and desire to be excellent people at production, excellent people at governance, and desire to be the star of Africa and desire to say we want to export instead of importing. And above all, that we will listen to one another. If we can listen to one another and understand the issues critically, we will certainly find solution. That for me, there is hope for the future.
Interesting. Doc, your final words as you try and wrap up, and all the things that you said as you try your final thought there, Doc.
To build up on that, what I would like to also add is that within the framework of the 24-hour economy, it means our brothers from Mali, Burkina, who spend a certain number of days waiting in the queue to load their trucks, it means within that, the efficiency and productivity will go up, that they can also quickly export, we can also export the petroleum products to our landlocked neighbors. One key aspect, and like Dr. Sedo said, is governance and compliance within our state entities and within the regulatory, especially the regulatory bodies, and how we conduct business. We really need to build the local capacity, but by doing so, we can do so with competent and people with the right kind of expertise and who have also built a track record to a C. We shouldn't just reward talkers, but rather those who have demonstrated a track record and a proven excellence of delivering, not necessarily those who are able to shout the loudest within the political.
Mr. Magwedu, your final word.
My final word is that I think for politicians, they should see their business people as partners in development. So whatever they are doing, they should have at the back of their mind that they are helping the business and they are helping the country. Going forward, maybe in the 2025, I would want to see a very conducive business environment, an environment where taxes are flexible for business to pay, an environment where interest rates are low, environment where policy rate is also low, an environment where the CD is also stable for businesses to do. But I also want to assure His Excellency President-elect John Dramani Mahama that the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry is ready to partner with his administration to implement the 24-hour economy. He cannot do it alone because you need the businesses to produce. You need the businesses to market. That is where you get your tax. So for the private sector, Chamber of Commerce, we are ready to partner. And I think we need to come to the table, and they should also listen to us. We cry, and they don't listen to us. We should create a platform where we can walk to him and share our views. We can walk to him and express the challenges that we are going through, and also receive an assurance from him that for this I'm going to do it because you are the ones running the economy. You are the ones employing the people. You are the ones exporting. You are the ones who will help us to change the structure of economy from an import-led to an export-led so that we won't import about 13 billion worth of all these things that we can produce. And the 24-hour economy is good, but he also has to look at the things, that the infrastructure that need to be put in place to ensure that it becomes a success. We are ready to...
Doc, do I also get that partnership from your end as well in 30 seconds?
Certainly. We more than prepare to join forces with him within any sector of the economy that we want to. And another challenge that we are throwing to both
5 seconds.
the one coming in for energy and agric is that the need for us to start using ethanol as a basis for our energy and then also for rural development, and especially to ensure food security. And I think if they build on the work that the outgoing government did at the ministry and then maybe tweak it and accept others, we can use that to promote the Ghana agenda to ensure that we all help our motherland.
Dr. Daniel Sedo is a strategist, a financial consultant, joined us via Zoom. I appreciate your time so much. Also, that's the Chief Executive of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mabedua Budget, also the Chief Executive of the Chamber, that's the Chamber of Distributors, also, that is the Dr. Kwekofore, and also that is John Ewa, Chief Executive of the Association of Banks, joined us also via Zoom. I know a debate will still go on in your homes and offices about what should be done right to create the right environment for private firms to grow and expand coming from the new administration that will take over from January 7th. My name is George Yafe. Have a great day.